Here is a Vornado VN. This is one of the stand models. It is convertible to have a shorter stand. You can take that pole out and it'll sit closer to the floor. This is one of the variable speed models from the 90s. Here's the informations. It is model 280CS, 1.4 amps. That might mean 1996, I'm not sure. Perhaps a date code can be decrypted from the serial number. I don't know how the Vornado model numbers worked in terms of I don't want to say feature set, but like, you know, was the higher number more of a higher end unit, etc. Because 280 is pretty low on the list. I believe that Vornado sold models up into the 800s. I think that this is what would have been considered a mid-size. I think that there is one that's a little bit larger than this. The blade on this is only a 10-inch blade, or about 25.5 centimeters. And we're going to come back to that later on because I think that that's a noteworthy aspect. So this is kind of an interesting product category to me because this was really one of the only like high-end fans that was sold in the 90s that was expected to be more of a long-term ownership product. You know, if you look at most of the fans of the 90s, even of the 80s, most of them had become fairly cheap and were not really expected to be around for all that long. Now, there are two different mindsets among collectors, it seems to be. Some people say that everything after the 1950s was garbage, and then some people say that the quality kind of gradually declined from the 1950s through the current day. I tend to adhere to the latter because I think it was more of a gradual decline. Let's take, for example, the Lakewood 223. Those were not necessarily sold to be long-term ownership products. I think Lakewood knew that. A lot of people didn't keep them for all that long, but they happened to be lasting. Yes, they're not as powerful as a metal-bladed box fan, not as durable as an all-metal box fan, etc. But they hold their own in performance, and they really weren't all that cheap. If you go back to 1985, for example, a 223 would have cost about $25, give or take. And if we inflate that to today's money, that's about $70. And that is way more than what a box fan goes for today. Those motors and those things had oil ports. The guards are easily removed with standard size screws for cleaning. Arguably, the provisions were there for the unit to be able to last for decades. If you had a basic tool set, you could clean it, you could oil it, and you could keep it around running good for a long time. There used to be a mindset where if something broke, even the average person who wasn't all that mechanical would still bust out a basic tool set and try to fix something. That mentality disappeared, mid to late century. Some people still had it, almost nobody has it today, but the point is, stuff sold back in the 80s, if you wanted it to last, you could probably make it last. It's not like the stuff sold today where you got weird screws, so you can't open stuff unless you have a security bit set, which most people don't have. The motors don't have oil ports. The provisions for this stuff to last has kind of gone nowadays. In the 90s, the box fans were getting cheap, they were getting thin. They happened to be lasting, but that really wasn't the anticipation. This would have been landslides more expensive than most of the fans sold in the 90s. I'm pretty sure that these actually had a 3-digit price tag depending on the store. And so this was like a really high-end product, and it was expected that it would be around for a while. I think these had a 5 or 10 year warranty as well, which was pretty decent for a basic consumer grade appliance. I don't see these around too much anymore. I don't think they sold all that many of them. I think that the price was just too high and the market was too small. I mean, if you got that kind of money, you'd just buy an air conditioner. Why'd you buy a fan instead? This doesn't make any sense. So there's not too many of these around, at least in this area. These are pretty sought after. Even non-collectors recognize these as good fans and will look for them if something is like this is desired. I have mixed opinions about them. I think the build quality was good. I think that these 80s, 90s models were kind of Vornado's peak, because even though they're all plastic, they were comprised of a plastic that seems to be standing the test of time. A lot of plastic products in the 90s we're starting to see now were not built with good quality plastics and are rotting away. These are not. These seem to be just as sturdy as they were 30 years ago. And it's nice, thick, good quality plastic. I have mixed feelings about the performance. The build quality is good. They uses pretty sure it's a Macmillan motor. It's quality stuff. Get a nice strong stream of air if you stand in front of it. But there was an advertising gimmick with these things where it says, oh, just turn it on and aim it at the wall and it's going to move all the air in the room and all this stuff. I don't feel like they're very good at that, because they don't have a high volume of air movement. They have velocity but not volume. And if you want to really move a lot of air around the room, you really need the volume. And so the problem with these, I think this is where the shortcoming is, the blade is too small. We said before, it's a 10-inch blade. Probably can get comparable performance out of a 12-inch oscillating table fan for a fraction of the price. And a fraction of the noise too. These are pretty noisy on the higher speeds, because they're pushing a lot of air for the size, but you move a lot of air with a small unit, you get more noise. So let's see. I know the ones in the 2000s are pretty easy to take apart. Yeah, this does have the clips. These were designed for easy cleaning, and this one looks like it's been cleaned a decent amount. You can see on the bottom here where it was missed. There's a couple slats with some pretty heavy dust accumulation. So this definitely has some hours on it. Let's see if we can take a look at the motor. It's got these little clips, and it used to advertise that it's super easy to clean because it's toolless disassembly, and that is true. That came apart very easily, but problem comes to play is you got to clean all these slats. Come in here, you got to clean all these slats. You can wipe the dust accumulation off the front here, but then, and this would bother me and even other people, but you've got all this dust in between here still. I like to clean all that off. So this is what the motors look like. These, oh, this does not have oil ports. That's surprising. Very interesting. I don't know if this is a Macmillan motor or not. We'll have to disassemble a little further to see if there's an information tag. I'd even want to bet that it is. It's just a basic shaded pull motor. Is it ball bearing? No, it's not ball bearing. There's zero play in the bearings that I can feel. It's still quiet. It runs very free. I'm sure it's never been oiled. So it's very good quality motor. And the blades is a good quality blade. It's very steep pitch. Looks like There's some dust on there. We'll just take that off so it works a little better for the video. You know, it was a good fan. It's just, is this really going to move all the air around the big room? I just don't think so. But that's my opinion. There was one motor that was used after these, which was still pretty good quality in the 2000s. And then Vornado just kind of went to junk. I don't know what happened. Price tag didn't go down, but the quality sure did. I wouldn't touch one of their products today. It's a waste of money. The motors are the same junk that you get in any other fan. I've heard that Vornado still honors their warranty pretty good, so I guess you got that going for it, but you shouldn't have to need it. That shouldn't be a selling point that they're going to honor the warranty because you're going to need it. And now I think that they make a lot of these DC inverter fans. Those are just not my thing. It's kind of interesting because it brought back variable speed. You know, I don't think that these were sold much past the 90s. And then in the 2000s, the premium models had the 5-speed control, which was really good enough. And then a lot of them dropped down to 4 and 3-speed and then introduced all this DC stuff. And I just don't like the DC stuff because you're going to have reliability issues. Because now you're putting a circuit board in there and you're adding the number of components to fail. It goes through the roof. You know, this, what can break here? The cord, the motor, and the switch. And that's pretty much it. And those are all, no, the motor maybe not, but the rest are easy to replace. You add a circuit board because you got to have a switching power supply. No, all of a sudden there's literally hundreds of components that can break and render the whole apparatus worthless. Sure, you can build a very good quality switching power supply, but a consumer grade fan is not going to have that. So, case in point, this will probably still be running in 30 years from now because it's basic design. A DC operated fan, I doubt it. Highly doubt it. Alright, let's plug this in. And we should get some interesting results in the power factor because I bet the control mechanism is kind of lousy. Alright, so we're going to be testing at 116.8 volts. We can move this over to the stool so I can see it. And we'll begin on the low, which is the slowest speed. On low, that is already 0.73 amps, and you could definitely draw a fraction of the power with a 12-inch oscillating this fan on low. This I'm pretty sure should pull. So that's 0.73 to amps, 48.8 to watts, with a power factor of 0.56, which is abysmal. This is almost silent. Because of the dodgy speed control, there is a slight buzz to the motor, but it's very quiet. You can't even hear it over the lights ballasts. And it's moving air. It's a nice gentle breeze, and if this was, you know, near you and this is blowing right on you, this is pretty comfortable for the, especially for the noise level. Let's see how far away can we feel this. I can feel it about maybe halfway across the room. Yeah, we'll go with that. I can feel it about halfway across the room. These are pretty good aerodynamic wise. The air does carry nicely. Okay, let's increase the speed a little bit. Yeah, it's up to 0.79 amps. 55.2 the watts with a power factor of 0.59. It should get better as we turn it up. Still very quiet. Now it's moving enough air to be felt just about all the way across the room. That's about 20 feet, because I'm not all the way up against the wall. And there's this, 15 feet maybe. Still very quiet. Let's increase it a little bit more. Now we can hear it, but it's still very quiet for the air being moved. That is 1.02 the amps, 59 the watts, with a power factor of 0.5. That's interesting, it went down. Now it can be clearly felt all the way across the room. The problem is, it's a very narrow stream of air. And so, if I could literally only feel it for maybe 2 feet wide, that's it. It's a super narrow stream. And so I just feel like that really hurts the ability for this to move the air around the room. In comparison, let's say a 223 for instance, a lot of them tended to push air out to the sides. And so you had a pretty good wide stream of air. And if you had people sitting on a couch and you put that fan up, 20 feet back from the couch, everybody felt the breeze. You're not going to feel it with this. 2 people feel the air, maybe. Let's go up a little bit more. Let's see, what are we at now? That is about just under halfway up. Oh no, that's wrong. That's actually about 2/3 of the way. No, about half. Halfway up. Go to 2/3. It seems to be getting more sensitive here. Like this. And that difference, that's about a third of a turn. That's about almost 2/3 on. And now it starts jumping up really quick. Alright, so that's about as much noise as I can deal with before I consider it annoying. And that's moving a pretty good amount of air. That's 1.03 the amps, 66 the watts, power factor of 0.55. Surprisingly, it felt like it was out of balance, but it's actually in pretty decent balance. Nice breeze across the room, but it's very, very concentrated. Okay, let's go up a little bit more. Now this is starting to get pretty noisy. It's a pleasant sound. It doesn't have any annoying vibrations or reverberations or verticam or whatever the heck to it, but it's a lot of noise. You're going to be turning up the TV, not hearing the phone right. This is a decent amount of noise. This is 1.09 amps, 78 the watts, power factor is 0.61. It's a very strong stream of air, but it's just too narrow. Okay, that's all the way up. It's powerful. That's 1.27 amps. That's right around, I think it's rated 1.4, so a little bit below, but that's reasonable. 99 watts. Power factor is 0.67. The power factor is abysmal, and it's eating up a lot of power. Now, is this all that much stronger than a translucent blade Lasco Galaxy oscillator? I don't know. It might be right up close, but I don't know. I don't really think that it is. It's going to be an interesting comparison. This one actually is not as loud as I thought it was. Some of the newer ones are kind of loud. This is actually pretty reasonable. It's still a little bit loud for my preference, but I could tolerate this. I just don't feel any air moving anywhere other than directly in the airstream, which is a very narrow sample. And the power consumption is kind of crazy. So, as the infamous comment says, I like it. I like the fan. It's a nice fan. It's good quality, interesting aerodynamics, etc. But is this worth spending the $100 or whatever more it was than the Lasco Galaxy fans were? Because these were sold in the 80s too, I'm pretty sure. Are these worth the outrageous price? I don't know. I really don't feel like the performance is everything it's hyped up to be. I tend to think that a cheesy, well, I'm going to say cheesy by today's standards, but cheesy back in the day, oscillating fan, that uses a fraction of the power. I mean, you could run, what, 3 or 4 oscillating fans for the amount of power that this draws. I don't know. To me, I think that this is a bit overrated. But then again, that's coming from somebody who likes economy products, so maybe that's a bit biased. I try to be as unbiased as possible, and I think from an objective standpoint, the Airstream is just too small to do what it claims it can do.